Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse, and I am back for another channel update random topic video. I know it hasn't been very long since I've done one of these, probably, I don't know, a couple of weeks, 2, 3 weeks at most. But man, just so many things just keep happening in this train wreck that is 2024 in a lot of ways. And so I thought about waiting until after Apple's keynote on Monday next week to do this video, but I figured that's just going to make it even longer, and some of this stuff will probably zip out of my mind to some degree. So, why not? We'll do one of these. And one of the ideas that I've been kind of mulling over for a while, and I would be curious if people would be interested or not. I noticed that, fairly recently, within the last year or two, YouTube has basically made an option to where you can turn a video playlist into a podcast. And, as things just keep happening and I do these videos regularly, I just put them under the events and updates playlist. But would people be interested in, like I have regular days I release videos, which we'll get into here in a second, but, would people be interested in, let's say, I don't know, every 2 weeks or whatever schedule it is, that one video is sort of like illegally cited podcast? And for lack of a better naming scheme, and I think it's just keep it simple, the illegally cited podcast. And so instead of just putting it under these events and updates, if people are interested in these types of, talking videos, I could maybe try switching it over to something like that just for these types of videos. I'll still do all the regular stuff, which I'll explain for any new users or new viewers now, but just seeing if people would be interested in that, just trying to figure out how to best cover accessibility news, gaming news, assistive technology news, just weird stuff that it goes on. So yeah, I don't know. Because I seem to be doing these a little bit more frequently than I used to. And so, over, let's say I do these, I don't know, twice every other 2 weeks or once a month, whatever the schedule is, just being able to talk about these types of things. So if people would be interested in that or not interested in that, feel free to let me know. I don't know if people find these videos helpful, but I also find it's really interesting to kind of look back. I've been doing these types of videos for a few years now, and it's sort of interesting to go back and look and go, wow, that's what was happening in 2019, 2020. I think even before that, I started doing these videos. Kind of an interesting time capsule, so to speak. But with that out of the way, as I usually do start these videos, if you are new to the channel, welcome, and please subscribe to the channel. Hopefully you'll find something here of interest. I do unlock videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Those are my regular release date days. And I will sometimes release videos on other days as well. If maybe I'm on vacation and just whatever, for the heck of it, here's a bonus video. Maybe something really cool happens in gaming or accessibility, or there's an event going on, like, E3 is dead now, but something like that, or a major, assistive technology or game accessibility announcement, whatever it happens to be. But you can generally count on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturdays. I do put everything into playlists, so that would, if you are new to the channel, that would be a good first place to start. You can kind of find whatever type of content you might find the most helpful. I have everything from low vision spotlight. Those are mainstream visual games that I play with my remaining vision because I am legally blind, hence the term illegally sighted. And So low vision spotlight games are ones that I play visually and that I would say people do need some level of usable vision to be able to play. Accessible game spotlights, be they PC, PS5, iOS, whatever, Xbox, accessible game spotlights are games I would consider playable for totally blind players. I do assistive technology stuff, few Geek Loot Spotlight videos every now and again, just kind of nerdy collectibles and things I've acquired over the years. I've got maybe one or two more that I might make a short video for soon. Growing Up Illegally Cited, I'm really proud of that series. Maybe I'll add some more to that in the near future. That playlist is a good place to start if you are curious about my background, the channel, how, a lot of the common questions that people ask. How did I get into YouTube creation? How did I become an assistive technology specialist? How did I do a lot of different things that I've done so far? And then just, some flashbacks, some memories, and other topics. I cover like education, my life in, everything from K-12 education through college to the hell of trying to become full-time employed to support myself, and a lot of other stuff in between. Like I said, assistive technology videos, a few Let's Plays, but not very many. I don't really concentrate on that type of content in this channel. Just any number of things. Like there's a whole Doom playlist because I like Doom is my favorite game of all times, if you can't tell by my avatar. And, I have a lot of Doom videos. And I have a Toby accessibility mod video, which again, I would love to plug that here because that is one accessibility project that I have been involved with for the past 4 to 5 years now. And Toby Doom 7.5 is out now, supports Doom, Doom 2, and Heretic even. The best place to get started if you want to try and play those, as I did a getting started with Toby Doom 7.5 video, that's a great place to start. But if you want to see some of the history of the mod and everything, and some streams I did in the past where I was playing it with the developer in the chat even, there's a lot there. So check that out. It's another thing that I'm pretty proud of. And yeah, that's kind of the channel, just check everything out by playlist. You got my release days there. My recent videos here, yeah, we've got a Toby Doom mod. We've got my early access video I just released today as I'm recording this for the Super Polygon Grand Prix, a cool looking 90s era racing game. We got the accessibility stuff for Star Wars Outlaws, a mobile accessible game. We got, kind of a Harry Potter-esque wizard school creation idle clicker game thingy. So, like I said, there's a lot of stuff there. But yeah, that's kind of some recent stuff that's been happening. Like I said, really proud of the Toby Doom stuff that that has come out recently. Would love for you guys to support Mr. Alan D1. Huge shout out to him, Predoa, and the rest of the team, because it's just really, really cool. So yeah, that is the channel stuff. As far as what is coming up, depending on how much is actually announced, I might do a video for the Apple event separately that they're having their Apple, what do they call it? It's glow time, I think, because they're referring to the glowiness of like the new look for Siri. You're going to get the Apple, the new phones, the new watches, who knows, maybe some AirPods, maybe some other announcements. They're probably going to talk more about their Apple Intelligence or their AI stuff a bit. Wondering what is going to actually happen with that, as far as it sounds like a lot of the cool stuff that we really want in the Apple Intelligence or their AI isn't going to be ready during or for the iOS 18 launch, and it might be an 18.1 type of thing, either later this year or early next year, so who knows. But yeah, depending on how much there is to really say about it, maybe I'll do a video for that. Odds are I probably will be upgrading my phone this year because mine's a few years old and it's running okay, but like I know VoiceOver is a little more sluggish, and I'm curious how iOS 18 will perform on it. But my phone cannot, it won't even support any of the artificial intelligence features. So if I want to be able to use any of that and test any of that and show it to people for my job and whatever, I need a new phone. So odds are probably pretty good that I'm going to be spending a bit of money this fall for that. Probably won't get a new watch unless there's something absolutely miraculous, but there you go. A lot of games coming out. Not sure how many of the console ones I'll be able to cover. I know we have the Astrobot game coming this Friday, believe it or not. We have Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2 that looks really cool, but I've seen in the last day or so, I've seen some stuff about these developers and their incessant need to create the smallest text possible for their menus and user interface, which drives me absolutely crazy. I'm curious to see how it's going to be optimized as well, because odds are I'll be getting the PC version if I do get it. I don't have a review code or anything, so if I do get it, I will probably be buying it myself, as I do most things I cover on the channel. So there will be a few big games. I know there's a Zelda game coming out this month, which looks interesting. Not sure if I'm going to be able to really cover that, like show it on the channel, but we'll see. But really, it's the indie games, the smaller games that I'm really interested in. There's a couple AAA games the rest of this year, but it's really all these little indie games, be they shooters or action games or more chill type of games. Again, that's where I see a lot of the innovation, creativity. They're a little cheaper. They're not focused on monetization. They're just really there to be fun in a lot of ways and offer something, like I said, unique. So I will, again, the content is not going to be slowing down. A lot to look forward to this fall and beyond. So that is an update on myself, the channel. I am going to be doing a speaking engagement this Friday, and I keep forgetting to email the guy because I'm wondering if either they're going to record it or if they will allow me to record it. I would love to put that in my another playlist you guys might find interesting is the podcast presentations in interviews. I think it's worded something like that. Where I've guested on other podcasts or videos or done interviews with other people on my channel or theirs. I've done presentations, and I'm going to be doing one, so I'd love to be able to have this upcoming speaking engagement that I'm going to be doing this Friday on that playlist, but I will have to see if that's going to be archived or recorded, and I will let you know. So potentially, we'll see. And I have a few other ones coming up either later this fall, possibly, and likely for sure. Next year, I've got a couple here in Minnesota that I already kind of tentatively have scheduled, so that's going to be fun. Keeping very, very busy, which is totally fine with me. I love doing this work. I love doing it, and I hope it helps people, so we're just going to keep rolling. So before we get into all the other topics that I wanted to talk about today, I have to at least briefly mention the absolute rage I felt earlier this afternoon when I go on to YouTube and I see some short news video clips of, we're less than a week into most people having started school, and we have another school shooting, this time in Georgia. 4 people dead, 9+ people majorly injured. They caught the guy and he's still alive, the shooter, he's still alive. I don't know, man. if you see the shooter and they're, like if you're a cop and you're seeing the shooter, it's like, man, do you take him alive, or if you know he's shooting people, like, do you just take him out? Because now we got to waste a bunch of money on him and keep him in jail and whatever. A 14-year-old kid, 14-year-old kid, and he's going to be tried. I saw some clip where they're saying he's going to be tried as an adult. Um, but there's just so many things wrong. The parents should have some, what's the word I'm looking for? Responsibility in these things. Because when is enough going to be enough? We hear the same thing every time. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the family and the victims, and that's fine and great and dandy and all, but those are just words. How many years later, how much more of this shit do we have to do? Do we have to take? People shouldn't have to, kindergartners and little kids shouldn't have to have fucking school drills on what to do if a shooter comes and starts spraying bullets around the school. That's ridiculous. I mean, I was talking to my friend, and like I said, we had people, they get in fights when we were in school, but you might get a bloody nose, or maybe I don't know, maybe you'd get a bone break or something, but like no one brought guns to school, and if they did, we lived in the middle of nowhere where people just had guns in their gun rack in the back of their pickup because they were going deer hunting. It's just, when is all this going to end? Do something, even if we get it wrong. Do fucking something, because this just has to stop. I am so sick of seeing, whether it's at a school or a sporting event or a concert or whatever it is, it's like, a drive-by. People could be, we hear people, they get shot at home. They're sitting in their house and some idiot gangbanger wants to do a drive-by. I've had enough. We have to do something to discourage these idiots from wanting their 15 minutes of fame. And these news sites, okay, do your 30 seconds of reporting the facts. This is what happened. This is how many injured. This is how many were dead. I don't even know if you should say who the shooter was. Don't even give them attention, because that's what they want. Whether they live or they're killed in action, don't give them the attention, because that's what they want. They want their 15 minutes of fame. I'm so sick of it. I feel bad for everybody in school right now. Teachers, students. How we all got to this. I know I've talked about it in previous videos, but it just gets me every single time. It really pisses me off. So I had to at least acknowledge that, because wow, already in the school year, we already have one. That's just insane. So with that out of the way, we are going to be covering some weird and some really messed up topics in this video too, because like I said earlier in the video, 2024, the weirdness and horror keeps coming. One other thing that I didn't mention in the original updates, I did actually end up watching the Borderlands movie. I don't know if I've covered any of the Borderlands games on the channel. They're fairly fun first-person shooters, but I really wish they had text-to-speech or menu narration in them, because like Diablo, you're comparing loot constantly, and it just got a little tedious trying to do all that visually. But they released this Borderlands movie, and it was just getting torn to shreds by reviewers and gamers. And like I said, I think it came out like 2-3 weeks ago, tops, in theaters. And they already released it for purchase or rent digitally on August 30th. And I thought, well, I'll rent it or something, just because it's a video game movie. I'm morbidly curious, for the stuff that I do. Sure, I'll comment on it, whatever. And is it a great movie? No, not really. Is it a terrible movie? Eh, not really. It's just, if you turn your brain off and if you have any familiarity with the Borderlands franchise, or even if you don't, I would say it's kind of just a dumb action flick. You got the Borderlands, the Wasteland, you got your kind of character classes from the games. You've got a story, you've got Tiny Tina in there. Um, you got some vehicle stuff, you've got some shooting and your special abilities for your characters and whatnot. You got the vaults and everything. I don't think it deserved the absolute hate that it got. I mean, like I said, is it the best movie ever? No. I've seen way worse video game movies. Like, I. No, this one was not near as bad as everyone is exaggerating it out to be. So, I did see it. And yeah, Borderlands. So, that happened. They had just released the Minecraft movie trailer, the first one. And it's live action, which is really kind of weird. Because everything in Minecraft is all blocky, and it's an interesting look. I'm curious to see what the whole movie is going to be like. People again are shitting all over that trailer. You got Jack Black seemingly. He's playing the Steve character, your kind of general template character. Sounds like another sort of Jumanji or something where people from the real world maybe get sucked into the Minecraft realm or something. I don't know. But coming out April next year, I'll check it out. I probably won't go to see it in the theaters, but I'll wait for it to go digital and check it out as I've done with a lot of these other game movies. Like the Sonic movies aren't terrible. Um, the Super Mario Brothers movie that came out last year wasn't terrible. Yeah, again, people are have these high expectations for these, and like I said, I would love for them to be super awesome. I mean, the Fallout series was really quite good. The Last of Us series was excellent. Um, so yeah, we'll see. But just a quick, comment on a couple of video game movie releases and such. Oh, then we get into a few video game tragedies, shall we say? So, a little game called Concord came out like less than 11 days ago, which is sad because it was in some sort of development, they say, for like 8 years. Now, were they, working on coding the game for all those 8 years in its current form? No, probably not. But regardless, the amount of money and time that was sunk into this game called Concord, it's your first person hero based shooter, team based thing. You got a couple team based modes and things like that. But all the time that got sunk into that, it's on PC and PlayStation 5. Literally on this Friday, September 6th, 11 days after launch, they are pulling the plug and shutting the game down, at least in its current form already. It's ridiculous. Now, will they work on it and put it in some other form and re-release it later? I have no idea. Is the company itself that's making this game going to even survive, especially with how many layoffs and closures and all this nonsense that's been happening in the industry the last few years? I hate to even see what's going to happen. But 11 days, man, that's a freaking record. I mean, they charged, was it like $40 for it? It wasn't a free to play game, but it was going to be focused on a lot of your cosmetic, microtransactions and your live service type of thing. And, for me personally, I was never really interested in the game because I don't like many multiplayer games these days because everything is team focused, and I like to be more of like a free for all. Give me my Doom and Quake Deathmatch, Quake 3 Arena, Fear, playing deathmatch. I just don't get into the team games because I just don't find them as fun, and also visually, again, as I've said many times, by the time I tell whether somebody is friend or foe, I'm likely already killed, dead. So it wasn't a game that I was necessarily going to check out anyway, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. I mean, from the people that have played it, it sounds like it's just not that memorable. It's not great, but it's not bad. It's just kind of this, again, it's this middle of the road forgettable game that doesn't have too many game modes or maps. And in a landscape now, in a market where we have gazillions of free to play games, whether they're shooters or MOBAs or uh, battle royales or whatever it is, you really have to do something kind of spectacular to set yourself apart. Whether that's a certain style or certain gameplay mechanics or modes or something. And it's just that people weren't buying into it. And I think, to be fair, I think that people were shitting on the game more than it deserved. Again, like I said, from everything that I've seen, I've watched some gameplay footage of it from people that I trust online, and I've seen them stream it a little bit. And I said, it doesn't look, if you're into that kind of game, it doesn't look necessarily bad. It's just not all that unique or memorable. And like I said, I just feel bad for the developers who just get, it's one thing to dismiss a game, but it's another thing to, I've also seen a few channels for a few of the games I'm going to talk about here in this video, just absolutely shitting on everything because, again, we gotta go by the numbers. We gotta, negativity, it feeds the algorithm, and God forbid we say anything positive about anything anymore. So like, there's these channels that they've seemed to, if not from the beginning, pivoting to just constant negativity and shitting all over everything that doesn't necessarily deserve it. If you don't like something, that's fine. You can just ignore it and say, yeah, it's not my thing, and then move on. That's really all you have to do. So I do hope that the developers of Concord either get to do something to revive it in some future way or get to continue making games. I hope their development company does not get closed like so many others have, because at this stage, who frickin' knows? That's one train wreck. And I should also say, if like people who bought it are getting the game refunded, like because they're closing it so early, people are getting it refunded. I guess people can buy physical versions of it, and then for that they would have to go through the retailer where they bought it from to get a refund. But the number of players, the numbers are so low that I can't imagine that many people bought it, and it. Again, it's sad. So yeah, is it a game that I probably would have played? Probably not. But I didn't think it looked terrible. I said, if you're into that kind of game, it could have been, at least something fun enough to play for a little while. And that's really all I'm going to say about it. I just, people, oh, well, cool, another one failed. People are going, well, see, I told you live service games suck and they've got to quit making them. And, a small part of me kind of says, yeah, I think this over attention to live service games and microtransactions and all this constant ongoing monetization, that trend does need to stop. But I don't know how much of it is the developers. Because even in your development company, you're a lot of these, mid-tier to AAA tier developers are kind of at the whim of the management. What is going to get funded, whether it's a publisher, whether it's like an exclusive game for Sony or Microsoft or what have you. They're like, they say, oh, we would love to make a first-person shooter, and maybe they have a cool mechanic or they have a cool thing that they want to build, but then manages, well, that's cool, but what if we add, thousands of microtransactions and skins and stuff and just, whore the hell out of everything for our game? And maybe, the developers are just forced to make that to even get the game funded. So all I can really say is I hope that management and all these executives, who am I kidding? If they can finally learn and go, as I've said, you can't trend chase, whether you're making games or music or videos or podcasts, anything creative, writing. You can't trend chase, especially in games where development is years at a time. So if what is a hot trend in 2024? Oh, well, we're going to fire up a team and we're going to build a game and it's going to be ready in 2, 3, 4 years. Well, by that time, people won't even care. They'll be sick of whatever that trend was in 2024. So make a game that you want to play. Make a game that you hear that other people want to play. Even if it's going back to the past, like, oh, I want to make a retro first-person shooter. I want to make a 90s era blue sky arcade racing game. Whatever it is, bullet hell space shooter, whatever. Make something that, that's a game first. And then, don't worry so much about the monetization. I know that you're doing it because you have to make money and make a living. I get that. But these publishers and, high muckety mucks need to realize that you can't keep doing this, because the people that are getting screwed are the actual people making these things. So Concord, that was one. And as I said, you have an oversaturated market in a lot of these areas. I mean, even as much as I love retro first-person shooters or boomer shooters, there's a glut of them. And, there's been even a few that I haven't covered on the channel that I don't know if I will, because I'm just like, I don't have enough interesting to say about them, good, bad, or the otherwise. And some of them I just haven't cared for. And I just don't think it's fair to, shit all over the game if I don't care for it all that much. If I have something truly interesting to say about it, good or bad, that's different. But, with the saturation of certain genres, I mean, even like roguelikes, like every game has got to have freaking roguelike mechanics. And I know people love it, but, or open world, sometimes they just want a linear, fun story game. The next game, oh boy, and I don't even know what to say about this one. Dustborn. This is a game I think that was, I don't know if it was Game Fest or an Xbox event. I thought it looked sort of interesting. It was this kind of animated style trip style game where you were in a band or whatever and you were doing a road trip as these teenagers or what have you. And it kind of had this adventure game, Life is Strange style to it. I like the Life is Strange games. I've played a couple of them so far. And they're fun. Has some elements of like the Telltale games. Sure, okay. So I've had it, kind of low on my radar, but I've just been, okay, like if I hear something about it, cool. Well, that game has come out, and boy, howdy, are people shitting all over this game, too. Now, to be fair, I have not played the game. But again, especially from an accessibility point of view, with the dialogue decisions, I wanted to know from an accessibility standpoint, are there timers on those, like where I have to read and try to choose responses in a certain amount of time? Are there quick time events that I would have trouble seeing? And so I did watch somebody stream it for a little bit just to kind of, okay, let me get a feel what the game is like. And let me get a feel for, whether it's watching a YouTube video or a stream, watching a game to know if it's going to be accessible enough for me to want to play. And the whole everybody's having a fit because they basically are calling the game performative DEI, diversity and include. What is it? Diversity. I just went stupid. DEI. You know, your diversity and inclusion thing, where you got to make sure to have a white guy, a black guy, a woman, a gay person, a trans person, whatever. But they're doing it so performatively that it almost seems like a parody of itself, and people don't really know if they're trying to be serious about it or if they're literally going so far overboard that it's like, okay, we're making almost like a parody or a mockery of itself. And to be fair, like what I've seen of the stream, I'm less interested in playing it, um, largely due to the characters in the game. Because the characters, everybody I've seen in the characters in the game that I've seen so far just are super unlikable and cringe. I mean, I know Life is Strange wasn't perfect either. I even commented on when I did the spotlight for the first game. It's like, yeah, some of the dialogue in these games are a little cringe. It's like, oh, I'm an adult and I'm trying to write like a teenager acting cool. It just falls flat or is really weird. But the characters in this game just are grating, um, from what I've seen, and they're, like I said, they're disguise. They're not actually a band, I guess. They're trying to smuggle some stuff across the country, but they're posing as a punk band to get. So they try not to get caught, you know, with the contraband that they have. Um, and the song that everybody's making fun of, you know, that they're kind of pretending to play, I got to admit it is pretty dreadful. It's really bad. Um, and I'm not going to say a lot about the whole diversity and inclusion stuff because, on one level, yes, I think it is very important to have a diverse workforce, diverse opinions, whether it's, you're working or you're, any type of job, whether it's gaming or a business, whatever. You want to have diverse thoughts. If everyone thinks the same way, you may serve one type of people pretty well, but what if you want to expand your market and you totally omit people with disabilities, or even just something like, you get somebody who is really, really leaning, left leaning or right leaning, and they just don't look at the world. You kind of want to balance things out a little bit. Um, so that is important, but I'm kind of tired of both sides, to be honest. Um, because you get the people that say, I hate the people that are like, everything is woke and everything is this, that, and the other thing, and it's just, again, constant complaining about everything. I hate that side of things, but I'm also, to be honest with you, I'm getting kind of sick of the people that are overperforming the other side. Um, whether it's diversity and inclusion or religion or philosophy in general, you're free to advocate for it. You're free to share your thoughts. At least in this country, you are. But if you literally angrily force it down people's throats constantly, you make everything a race issue. You make everything a microaggression, or these other just ridiculous terms. This cancel culture. If you go that far with it, all you're going to do is make people not listen to you. If somebody were to approach me with an opinion or a request or something, and they did it in a reasonable, constructive way, and shared their point. I shared my point. Maybe we agree. Maybe we agree to disagree. That's fine. Um, but to just and again, there is a difference between being persistent and being a complete dick about it. I am persistent. I will always advocate for accessibility. I will always advocate for the rights of people with disabilities or for blind people, visually impaired people, or people who are blind or visually impaired. I don't care about person first language or the way that somebody says, is it okay to say blind or legally blind or um, visually impaired? Handicap, that's pretty outdated. But making up goofy words, handy capable, that kind of cringes me. But it's how you act and what you do that's going to get my attention more. And like I said, I just can't. The people that are so like overzealous and play the professional victim or they're going so far with diversity and inclusion that it's almost like a performative art. It's like I want to make it look like I'm fighting for you, but I'm just doing it for attention from myself to make myself look cool. Because you can kind of tell, like the people who are actually advocating because they want to do it you know, for the group that I'm mean, use people who are people with disabilities or blind people. Who's doing it for the right reasons, for the equality and the rights, and then the people who are doing it so performatively that it's just clout chasing at that point. But I'm just like I said, I'm tired of both sides. You get the anti-woke people, and then you get the overly offended professional victim side. I'm getting tired of both extremes. I'm done with both. Should we be courteous? Should we be respectful? Absolutely. Should we be persistent and not let it go? Like, let's say an app gets broken and we don't have accessibility anymore. Should we be upset about that? And should we advocate to get that fixed? Absolutely. And will I be persistent about it? Yeah, more than likely I will. But if you go too far either way, like I said, all you're going to do, it's kind of like the anti-drug stuff, in the 80s where it was like, dude, the more you shove this down our throat, all you're doing is like this stuff is so cringe. All you're making me want to do is do drugs. All you're gonna make me want to do is smoke pot and drink beer. It's just like really. Um, but yeah, it's a mess. This. And then I forgot what there was another game where they announced. I don't think it was Rainbow Six Siege. I can't remember what it was. There's some game where they added a new character, or not just a skin, but like a new character class or something, and they're in a wheelchair. And again, that's cool for diversity and thing, having a character that represents you. That's fine. But I've seen also people are mad. It's like, well, that's cool that people are in a wheelchair, but if somebody has a true mobility impairment, they still can't play the game. It's kind of like all the games that have blind characters in them, yet you can't play them as a blind player. And I get that argument. I don't know. It's just kind of strange. I had something else I was going to say about that. Um, yeah, and again, representation is important, but you shouldn't do it as a token gesture or a forced gesture. It's like, see, we put a black person in here, or oh, we put a blind person in this movie or this game. I don't care if I play, if the story calls for it. Um, I've played many games where I play a female character. I've played many games where I've played a black protagonist. I've played games, where you're interacting with any number of different types of characters, gay, straight, men, women, trans, whatever. Just let them be people. And other than maybe just saying, hey, we did make a diverse character just to make our world feel a little bit more realistic, a little bit more, um, not just, I mean, yes, inclusive, but just more realistic. But you don't have to go really any farther than that. Like, would I like to see NPCs in games if I'm playing Grand Theft Auto or something, and oh, I see a blind guy with his cane tapping down the street, that or down the sidewalk. Cool, that's fine, and I'll appreciate it. But I won't have, they don't have to shove that down my throat and say, "See how good we are? So aren't you proud of us? You should give us a pat on the back for that." Um, because any group is just, I don't know, people get mad about the dumbest things. People with disabilities are supposed to be, we're supposed to feel sorry for them or be inspired by them and nothing in between. I'm just a dumb schmuck who does my day job and records videos and likes games and music and movies and drumming and reading and whatever, just like everybody else. I happen to have a disability. Yes, I focus on that for a lot of the work that I do, but I'm more than that. And I, like I said, I think it's cool when movies and games portray a certain type of person in a good, but like I'm going to say a competent way, because I don't want to say a positive way, because everybody, every group, whether you're, black, white, brown, male, female, disabled, non-disabled, you have smarter people, you have not so smart people, you have nice, caring people, you have very rude and annoying people, you have criminals, you have, very, again, like educational people who want to, like help and teach people. It doesn't matter, like, just because, like, if I have a disability, I could be smart or I could be not so smart. I could be a criminal. I know a fair few people personally who have gotten locked up in the pokey. Um, and just because they have a disability doesn't mean they can't commit crimes. Doesn't mean they can't be a prick. And it doesn't mean that they can't be helpful, that they can't be, I mean, so as long as you portray the disability competently, let's say, um, like this is how a blind person would get around, or this is how a deaf person would sign or communicate, or this is how somebody in a wheelchair would accomplish some tasks or get around. But they're just another character in the game, just like your average, male, female character, whatever it is. They just happen to have the disability, unless it's unless it's the overall theme of the game or the movie or whatever. There doesn't need to be all that much attention drawn to it, in my opinion. That's just my thoughts, though. But yeah, as far as this, what did they even call it again? Dustborn. I like the idea behind it, but the characters and everything just seems so cringe that, again, if people like it, that's cool. Um, based on the footage that I've seen, and so many other games are coming out, that I think this is, at least for now, one that I can pass on. I'm not going to shit all over the developer for doing what they wanted to do. Did they go a little far in being preachy? From what I've seen, yeah, maybe a bit. But I guess that's what they wanted to do. To each your own, whatever. But that was a whole interesting spiel that I've had to see on social media the last week or so. Now speaking of disability, oh boy. Oof, I don't even know how to talk about this one. If you've been on social media in the last week and a half, and you're at all involved in the disability community, you've probably heard about this to some degree. And like I said, where to begin, what to even say. I will leave a link in the description of this video below to the original article written by Grant Stoner. Awesome job, by the way. I can't imagine the roller coaster of things and emotions and whatever that you had to go through to try to research and write this article, but damn. So there was an article. Well, it was it was about a week and a half ago, because it was the Friday night, I think, as I was just starting my week off vacation. I recorded some videos I remember doing. I went to check Twitter, and then I saw this article title and reference. I'm like, what are they talking about? So Grant Stoner wrote this really great article, really detailed article, so I'll give you the overall gist of it, but if you have interest in it and you want to get all the facts, read the article, because I don't want to misquote anything. But it's crazy. So there's a prominent member of the disability and game accessibility community over the past several years. You may have heard of them. Courtney Craven, now Cody Craven, who pulled one over on all of us for many years and really did some despicable, disgusting stuff. So back up to about 2018, 2019, when I became familiar with Courtney and another person named Susan. You may have heard if you were on Twitter back then, there was a Susan Can't Play It account. So there was this Susan Banks person, and they got involved with Courtney Craven at the time, and they were advocating for game accessibility. They started Can I Play That? And, okay, they're doing cool stuff. They were advocating for people who were, people with disabilities, people who were deaf, especially that was their focus. Marginalized communities, women, people with disabilities, your LGBTQ or your trans, black or, basically non-white representation. All those things are fine. All those things are good to do. And then in spring 2019, we had found out that this Susan Banks had passed away. She had died. And because they had become pretty prominent, pretty well known in the game accessibility disability community, they, everyone was, passing along their sympathies and seeing what they could do to help and everything. And because it's like, well, hey, you guys were contributing a lot, whatever. Um, they, did some GoFundMe stuff or some fundraising. There were awards named after, um, like awards or I think other things that were named after Susan in her honor, in her memory. I remember distinctly this time because that was the time I was kind of getting to know Riley a little bit. And, she had been following me a little bit for a while, and she was considering doing the game accessibility thing, getting into that. And she's like, "Oh, I don't know if I could do that. You've heard her stories in the past before." But, this, when Susan died, that was sort of what kicked her into thinking, you know what? To honor what she was doing and honor her memory, I will decide to try and advocate for game accessibility. And so that's how she started doing that for a little while. And because I remember talking to her right around that time. And so that's what kind of got her kickstarted into saying, well, I'm on the fence whether I want to do it or whether I should do it or can do it. And that's what kind of kicked her into high gear. So that was a good thing to come from that. But come to find out, there was some suspicious things going on. And then Courtney, then later Cody Craven, was involved with a couple of other people. And I don't remember their names off the top of my head. But the interesting thing about that is, again, they were these almost like too perfect, because that's what was kind of cluing people in. It's like, we've never seen these people. We hear about they have their social media accounts, but we've never seen any picture evidence of them. We've never heard of them or seen them in real life. We've never heard them, whatever. I mean, because I think a lot of them were, again, they were deaf, but it was almost like a too perfect combination of things, a mixture of things. So it's like, I'm a woman, I'm deaf, I'm racial minority, I'm, how many things can you put in the DEI blender? And how many things can you, like I meet every one of these things. And there were just some like weird things, or people were like, there's some things that aren't really adding up. And so after like a couple of years of research based on that article, Grant Stoner released this doozy of an article a couple weeks ago now. All of these people, this Susan and the other two people that I can't remember their names, were all made up. They were fictitious. Cody Craven made them up. And it's so weird because like what they were trying to do, it's really strange because, okay, you're making up all these people and you're theoretically doing it for a good cause. You want to advocate for, inclusion, accessibility, diversity. You want to advocate for all those things. Sure, that's great. But why would you trick an entire community? Why would you, I didn't even know, deceive? Why would you do that? Because like I said, these were people that were, getting industry-wide recognition, especially Susan. They took money based on these imaginary people. And to me, that's fraud. And there should be consequences to that. Now, again, good things did come out of it. Cody does not work for Can I Play That anymore? So that's under new management, under new ownership, under new, Different people are running it right now. But damn, man, like that's fraud, and there should be consequences for that. Um, I'm not really going to spend any time about it because that just makes me super angry. But again, I heard earlier this year there was a big hubbub on the social media and the YouTubes. Even when I'm not looking for it, I couldn't escape it. The whole Boogie 2988 thing where he was faking cancer for 2 years or better, and weaseling a whole bunch of money out of people for that. That is just an absolute shit thing to do. In playing the professional victim and say, "Oh, I can't work, I can't do this, I can't do that," and you should just keep giving me money, and I'm gonna deceive you and take money from you. Is that's just wrong. Obviously, these people need help mentally, and they should get help. But I still think there should be some consequences to that, to deceive an entire community to profit and benefit from all of this. I don't know what the answer is, but again, it's just disgusting. So shortly after this article went live, pretty much, I mean, Cody just understandably just completely smoked all their online accounts, their social media, and they were just ghosts. So I don't know if they're going to get help. I don't know if they're going to. They probably won't have to face any other consequences. I mean, yeah, they probably can't be online ever again because they've completely destroyed their reputation. But I don't know. I mean, it's just so weird to to think that, there's a lot of people that I don't personally know on Twitter, but I would consider them friends. They've been in my chats when I streamed. Some of them have sent me emails. They put comments. Some of them I've talked with audibly through, like Brandon Cole again. And that's the other thing. After Brandon Cole, and we lost like 2 people within a couple days of each other. And after all this stuff, losing Brandon Cole, he was a real dude. He was doing a lot for the blind and disability community, game accessibility community. And then month and a half, 2 months later, you find out about this fraudster. Man, just garbage. It's just insulting. I don't know. So, like I said, I'm not going to say more. I could say more, but I don't want to get all amped up. I don't want to get all, I don't want to say something by accident or just, again, you get carried away, you get kind of amped up on these things. But it is, like I said, it's disgusting. And, this does hurt. We'll bounce back and we'll fight through it as we always have to, as we always do. But this does sort of hurt the credibility of what so many of us have been fighting for. I mean, look at where we've come again from 2015, let's say, until now. We're almost 10 years from then. When I saw game accessibility really starting to kind of take off. We have a long, long way to go, but we have come a long way. There are examples of things in game accessibility that I didn't think we would see for years, if not decades, back in 2015. We've had full AAA games like Forza and The Last of Us, totally playable by blind players. We've had audio description in games, screen narration, QuickTime events made accessible in games like As Dusk Falls. We've had mods that have made recent games in 30 plus games accessible. I mean, did I ever think Doom would be made playable for the blind? Hell no. Would I have loved to have seen it? Sure. Did I think it was ever going to happen? Probably not. But look at where the Toby mod is right now. It's amazing. You know, you got Stardew Access. You've got um, so many other mods. You got a lot of indie developers natively making their games accessible. Accessibility as a key focus of theirs. You know, you get things like Stories of Blossom, Brock the Investigator, Sequence Storm, um, Upheaval, War Sim. Those are all different genres of games. Um, but it was a really big thing in the accessibility community, this news story, obviously, for several days. I've seen it kind of die down since. And I haven't, you know, I mean, yes, it was, this article was on IGN because Grant, he does write, he's been doing writing for IGN and other websites for a while now, but I have not seen this get much attention, really, if at all, in the mainstream gaming media, gaming press. And part of me says that's maybe a good thing, and part of me says it's a bad thing. Because God, no, Lord knows that it's hard to be taken seriously as it is, as someone with a disability, because, you know, you reach out to an app developer, a game developer, a hardware manufacturer, and you ask for accessibility, to add accessibility or include accessibility during initial development, or fix accessibility that got broken in a recent patch or update. Sometimes you're just brushed off. Sometimes you are ignored. Sometimes you are like, yeah, if we might get around to it eventually. And then you get the kind of elitist audience of users or players who are like, oh, you know, just get good, or blind people don't play games anyway. They're video games. They're not audio games. They're video games. Get over it. Not everybody can play everything. So it's already an uphill battle. You know, it's already hard to be taken seriously or given a proper amount of attention. And if you were, let's say, I don't know, I mean, if you were a developer, or if you were one of these big, you know, again, if you were one of these businessmen, executives, CEOs, financial decision makers, and then you see stories of this, where it's like, oh, you get this person who is a member of this disability community trying to pull one over or multiple ones over on everybody, making up people, and kind of, you know, being fraudulent about all of this stuff, you know, and if all you're looking at is the bottom line, it's going to be even harder to be taken seriously, because, oh, you get a bunch of those liars in the disability community. They're just whining for no reason and making shit up. I don't know. I don't know if or what the fallout is going to be from this, but it's such a mind-blowing thing that I had to read the headline. I had to read even the headline 3-4 times to say, wait, what? Because these are people I've heard of. I've seen Courtney back in the day. I've seen Cody in presentations or different things. But to know that like all these other people were made up, it blew my mind. And yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I hope this doesn't affect the disability, the game accessibility community too much. I hope that we're despite all the negativity and, losing Brandon and losing other people in the community, and then this year, 2024, has not been a super great year for game accessibility. There really haven't been too many games that have, especially blind accessibility, there really hasn't been much. I mean, you have Toby Doom, Star Wars Outlaws. Yes, it has menu narration and it does have some nice low vision accessibility features, but it's still definitely a game that I would say you need some usable vision to play. And even then, there are areas I have trouble with, especially it being such a stealth focused game. It's all this stuff happening. It can demoralize you a little bit. It can wear you out. It can tire you out. To always have to be, a mascot for accessibility or for disability, or to have to fight twice as hard, 3 times as hard for half the results. That's hard enough as it is. And then you get all this crazy stuff. So that is what I wanted to say about that. I'm not going to go into much detail here. Other than to say it just blew my mind. Again, I will leave a link in the description for the original article. If you're at all into this community, if you haven't read it already, I highly recommend reading it. It was a great piece of journalism. It was well researched, well written, and wow. So yeah, that's that story. We'll try to hopefully end on something a little more positive. I had a couple other really quick things. So yeah, AppleVis. Remember I did that video in July where they were saying that AppleVis may shut down by the end of August. Well, the good news is they are not shutting down. They actually are transferring the ownership of AppleVis over to the folks at Be My Eyes. And they released a podcast and a blog post and whatnot already about what's going to be happening with that. So around on or before September 9th, when Apple's fall event is going to be happening, the site is going to go live again, and they are going to have their usual, what's new in iOS 18, the good and bad in accessibility, the site, all the stuff is going to go live again, the forums, the app directory, sounds like all that's going to come back. And yeah, Be My Eyes is going to be taking over the website, but there's still, AppleVis is going to still maintain their kind of independent, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically their independence, they're not going to be like, oh, you can't say anything bad about Be My Eyes or whatever. They're going to still maintain their kind of independence, integrity. And I do hope that with the people that they're keeping the editorial staff, they're hiring a couple of actual paid people. And I do hope that they are able to, and I hope they're more willing to lay the smackdown on when they bring back the user forums. Again, people have I'm not saying that you need to be always, praise every little thing, because if I like something, I will still be critical about it. I can still be I can still give constructive feedback about it. But I do hope that they zap some of these really, really toxic, negative people, because I really got tired of reading it. I talked to my coworkers, I talked to friends, and we liked reading AppleVis, but it got tiring reading these forums because you get these few, no pun intended, bad apples who just bring everything down and, sidetrack everything and, again, shit all over everything. And so I hope that they do take that into account to kind of keep a more, again, feel free to report bugs, feel free to ask questions and, have minor complaints about things, but, being rude and the way that some people were being so toxic, get rid of those people. You give them a warning or something, but then, nope, you're out of here. So it's great to see that come back. I'm curious to see what they do with it. Um, they do have an AppleVis podcast about it. Double Tap did a podcast about it. I think Living Blindfully did a podcast about it. Probably a few other places did. So there's plenty of other places to read or listen about it. But I am glad to see that the resource does survive because I've found it very useful over the past 14 years. I got my first iPhone, iPad, learning about new apps that come out, new games. I've submitted questions. I've tried to answer a few questions over the years. The app directory itself is super helpful. Even some of the tutorials and podcasts have been kind of neat. So there's a lot there. And it would be kind of cool to see once they get things settled a little bit. It kind of would be cool to have a Android Viz. Just basically duplicate the functionality of AppleVis or something. Because I do get a lot of questions through my day job, and I don't follow Android as closely. I have an Android device that I use for testing. It's a little older, but I try to at least generally sort of keep a basic understanding. But it's not my daily driver by far, so I don't follow Android near as much. And there are Android releases out there, but they're so scattered. I think it would be really cool to have something equivalent, like, oh, here's a accessible Android app directory. Here's where people can ask about, and just having this kind of central community repository of resources. I think that would be helpful. And I wouldn't be, people have talked about, oh, having like Windows and Mac stuff. Yeah, maybe in the long run or whatever, but no, I would, get AppleVis running again, do what you need to do with it. And I would say that I think Android would be a fair thing because those are your two primary mobile platforms. And it would be nice to have kind of a really nice central repository of an app directory and community where people can find information on the Android platform just as easily as they could for Apple stuff. So that's that. I don't know what's happening with this for sure. There was some talk about a week ago. I heard about it from a friend of mine. Actually, he called me one evening, and he said Orcam is potentially getting out of the blindness market, and they're going more toward hearing impairment technology. I'm like, oh, really? We have an Orcam representative that talks to us through my day job a lot. And so I hadn't heard anything about that. I'm like, oh, really? Yeah, I went to the website it was a podcast. I heard about it. And then so I don't know what's happening because then a couple days ago I heard kind of a contradictory thing to say, no, they're not leaving the blindness market, but they're shifting more toward they're kind of, their distribution model is what they're trying to change. I think they're going more with like local resellers instead of like direct to consumer. So maybe that's where they're going. They're going to be doing some hearing stuff, but it would be nice to get some official confirmation, some official word, because before it's like, well, boy, for people who just bought an Orcam, or maybe are thinking about buying an Orcam, is it worth investing? Because are they going to support it or whatever? So I don't know the full answer to that, but it sounds sort of like they may not be losing, or they may not be leaving the blindness market, but they're going to be restructuring it and how they approach it a little bit. So I don't know, but I wanted to bring that up because I know people have probably heard about it or are asking about it. And that's all I know up to this point. Speaking of living blindfully, that podcast from Jonathan Mosen is ending soon. I've been following him off and on since like the early 2000s when he hosted ACB Radio's Main Menu. I remember when I was in college, we would listen to that, and back in the olden days of technology by today. But yeah, his podcast that he's been doing for a long time has been, he's ending that at the end of September because he apparently just announced he's working now for the NFB, the National Federation of the Blind. So yeah, he's doing that and stopping his whole podcast. I guess there was an episode about that in the last day or two where he talks about the NFB stuff. Haven't listened to it fully yet, but the episode before that was actually really good, and I was almost considering doing a sort of growing up illegally cited about some topics that were in that podcast episode, because there were some really good interviews about like perception of people with disabilities, whether it's running for office or, you know, should we, you know, how do we get more people in all areas of a company, not just like your grunt workers, but actually have blind leaders in management and executive and leadership roles, and what it takes to what it takes to be taken seriously and to be successful as a blind or visually impaired person. The things to avoid, the things to keep in mind, what you can do to strengthen your skills and give you a better chance. And there was a lot of good stuff in that episode, so I might consider doing something about that. We'll see. But yeah, that podcast is apparently ending at the end of the month. And we are about at the end of this video. Finally, I know this has been another doozy. I don't know if this is going to be a bonus video or if I'm just going to do it for Saturday, leave it for Saturday. I haven't decided, but we'll see. I already mentioned we have the Apple Fall event coming up this coming Monday. It's at noon Central Time. At least that's when it always is on my time. So we'll have to look and see what time there. But there's that event sometime in October or in September, I think. I don't think it's in October. I think it's later September. We're having the they're going to have the Meta Connect, which I'm very curious about because I would love for them to announce or for them to say that they're going to update the Meta AI for the glasses, for the Wayfair glasses, because there's a good start there, but there's so many self-imposed restrictions, as I've talked about so far, that I know it could do way more. But Meta AI is really, I would say, considerably behind things like your Google Gemini and ChatGPT and things like that. So I would love to even hear about some of the restrictions being lifted or more capability being added to, especially the the kind of the look and describe feature of the Meta Glasses AI, because that's just it's very cool when it works, but I can easily see just lots of little tweaks that would just make it so much infinitely better, whether they do it themselves or partner with an API for things like Be My Eyes or Seeing AI or something like that, Envision, whatever, but I would love to see it. And of course, at the end of October, the Game Accessibility Conference. Very much looking forward to that as usual. There's a certain session. I don't know if it's going to be in the full. I don't know if it's going to be in there yet. But if it does, if and when it does get announced, I will let you guys know. But I'm very much looking forward to that, despite the rest of this year being so nuts in a lot of ways and depressing in a lot of other ways. So anyway, ending on some good high notes with some upcoming things to look forward to. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, give that article a look. Let me know if you like the idea of more of a regularly scheduled, illegally cited podcast-ish type of thing like this. Whatever. But yeah, hope you guys liked the video. Give it a like if you did. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79, twitch.tv/illegally cited. illegallyscited.com and right here on YouTube. Until next time, I will chat with everybody again later.